Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So I had a really sweet follower reach out to me and tell me their story of having a chronic illness and eating disorders, and how there's not a lot of people that talk about the overlap that comes with chronic illness and eating disorders. So I decided that I'm going to make a video talking about my experience with chronic illness and being in recovery from an eating disorder to hopefully make some people feel a little bit less alone. So in my experience, my eating disorder started years before I was diagnosed with chronic illness, and my health really became an issue on that aspect. I developed a restrictive eating disorder when I was 13 and ended up going to treatment at 16. I was there for 5 months, and then a few months later, I started exhibiting chronic illness symptoms. It kind of started out of nowhere. I started having really excruciating knee pain. I had no idea where it was coming from or why. So I brought it up to my dietitian, and she recommended that I go to an Ehlers-Danlos syndrome specialist. I had never heard of Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. I had no idea what it was, but my mom and I went to see the specialist, and she diagnosed me with hypermobile Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, and I started going to physical therapy. I did physical therapy for about a year. I was managing my symptoms and my eating disorder recovery pretty well together. And then I ended up getting into my dream college, which was in another state. So I moved to another state without my parents and had to find a whole new care team. And this was when I started experiencing more issues come up with my health, and this is when my eating disorder recovery and my chronic illness management started to clash. So when I got to school, I ended up seeing a bunch of doctors and also got diagnosed with POTS and fibromyalgia. So I ended up getting these new diagnoses. I'm adjusting to living on my own, trying to manage my eating disorder recovery on my own with meal prep and making sure that I'm eating enough. And my health just honestly took a turn for the worst. I started experiencing the worst flare-ups I've ever had, and they were lasting for super long periods of time. And this is when I started to notice my chronic illness management start to clash with my eating disorder recovery. And it all started with weight gain. So when you have a restrictive eating disorder, a part of your recovery is called weight restoration, which is where you gain back all of the weight that you ended up losing, and they try to get you to a healthy weight. So it ended up taking me about a year to weight restore. But then when I got to college, I noticed that I was still gaining weight, and I knew that it was because I wasn't able to exercise and move my body in the ways that my body deserves because of my chronic illness. And this started to bring up a lot of eating disorder thoughts, because when it comes to eating disorder recovery, one of the main pieces of it is developing a healthy relationship with your body and a healthy relationship with exercise. And when I became chronically ill and started experiencing these terrible flare-ups, I wasn't able to exercise and move my body in the ways that I wanted. So this caused me to be very upset with my body. And that totally goes against everything that I learned in eating disorder recovery of maintaining a healthy relationship with my body and a healthy relationship with exercise. So now I am upset at my body. I'm not able to exercise. I am upset that I can't do the things that I want to do. And that's where I started experiencing a clash between the two. Obviously, because I wasn't able to exercise and move my body, I gained some weight. And that brought up more eating disorder thoughts. So if you have a chronic illness that causes weight fluctuations, it can be very hard to continue in your eating disorder recovery when your weight is fluctuating and bringing up these eating disorder thoughts all the time. So I started experiencing that. And then I started having some new GI symptoms, which kind of dictated what I ate and when I was able to eat and how much I was able to eat. And so that brought up more eating disorder thoughts, because when I was in my eating disorder, I was dictating what I ate, when I ate, and how much I ate, but it was coming from my mind. But this time I was dictating what I ate, how much I ate, and when I ate, but it was coming from my body. So it was kind of this weird like juxtaposition of like eating disorder thoughts coming up and this piece of wanting to control my food again, but realizing that this time those limitations and control is coming from my own body and my own GI tract and not my brain. It was just very weird to wrap my head around. And of course, when I'm getting super nauseous and unable to finish a meal, my eating disorder voice comes in the back of my head and is like, oh good, you'll lose weight because you're not finishing your meal. And then I have to be like, no, like I'm not purposefully restricting my food to lose weight. I'm not finishing my meal because I feel sick. So they very much started to clash in ways that I wasn't prepared for, because my chronic illness diagnoses and symptoms started after eating disorder recovery. So I was not prepared for this through eating disorder treatment because I didn't know I was chronically ill and I didn't have any symptoms. So very hard to grapple with and deal with. And I've actually never heard anybody on like social media or online talk about the experience of being chronically ill and also having an eating disorder and being in eating disorder recovery, because they don't really go hand in hand. So I haven't seen a lot of people talk about it. So I hope that I made you feel a little bit less alone. It's something that I'm still actively struggling with. So I hope that if you're kind of in the same spot, you feel a little bit less alone. And as always, my DMs are always open if anyone needs someone to talk to who understands what they're going through. But yeah, thanks for watching.